When someone knows that you have the strength and the self-awareness to let them go if they're not treating you right, something shifts in the way they see you. It's not about threats or ultimatums. It's about an unshakable, quiet confidence that says, I am here because I choose to be, not because I'm afraid to be without you. That kind of energy is magnetic because it's rooted in self-respect, and self-respect is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. It tells the other person that you value yourself enough not to accept crumbs, that you have standards for the way you're treated, and that your happiness doesn't depend solely on their presence in your life. When you stay in a situation that isn't fulfilling, hoping things will change, you unconsciously communicate that you're willing to accept less than you deserve. This makes it easy for the other person to take you for granted. They don't feel the urgency to step up, because deep down they believe you'll stay no matter what. But when you make it clear through your actions, not through drama or arguments, that you won't settle for being undervalued, you change the entire dynamic. Suddenly the other person understands that your presence in their life is a privilege, not a right. Think about it. When you have something valuable and you believe it will always be there, you stop appreciating it as much. You stop going the extra mile. You get comfortable, complacent. But when you know it can be gone tomorrow, you treat it with care. You prioritize it. You protect it. The same is true in relationships. Letting someone go when they're not giving you what you need sends the message that you're not afraid to live without them. And ironically, that's often the moment they start to see just how much you meant to them. It's important to understand that respect is built on boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're guidelines that show others how to treat you. And the strongest boundary you can set is the willingness to walk away from what doesn't honor you. This isn't about punishing someone. It's about protecting yourself. You're showing them that you won't compromise your dignity for the sake of keeping them around. And when people see that, it commands respect. Even if they don't agree with your choice, they can't ignore the strength it takes to make it. The beauty of letting go is that it removes any question about your self-worth. You're no longer waiting for someone to decide whether or not you're enough. You've already decided that you are. And that decision changes the way you show up in the world. You no longer cling. You no longer plead. You no longer settle. You become a person who can stand in their own power, knowing that if something is meant for you, it will meet you where you are, and if it isn't, you'll be okay without it. This is why people respect those who can walk away. It's not just the act itself, it's what the act represents. It represents independence. It represents a deep belief that your happiness and peace matter. It represents the kind of confidence that can't be faked. You can't pretend to be okay with letting go if deep down you're terrified of losing the other person. That fear will show in your words, in your actions, in the way you try to pull them back when they start to drift. True respect comes when you've done the inner work to genuinely be okay on your own, to truly know that your worth doesn't rise or fall based on whether someone stays. Letting someone go also forces them to see you in a new light. When you remove yourself from a situation, they can no longer see you as the person who will always be there no matter what. They start to remember the qualities they first fell for, the things that made you special in their eyes. And because you've stepped away, there's no guarantee they'll get those things back. That uncertainty makes them pay attention in a way they didn't before. They may not have noticed your presence, but they notice your absence. What's interesting is that the people who respect you most are often the ones who have seen you enforce your boundaries. They might not say it out loud, but they admire the courage it takes to choose yourself over your attachment to them. Even if they feel hurt or rejected in the moment, that seed of respect remains. And for some, it's the thing that makes them reflect on their own behavior and realize they need to step up if they want to be in your life. You can't underestimate the role self-respect plays in attraction. It's easy to think attraction is all about looks, charm, or shared interests, but those things fade or change over time. Self-respect, on the other hand, is timeless. It communicates to someone that you're not just a partner, you're a person with a full, independent life, and they are invited into that life as long as they add value to it. That's powerful. And here's the truth. When you let go, you also let go of the illusion that you can control someone else's feelings or actions. You stop trying to convince them to choose you and you start focusing on choosing yourself. That freedom, that release of control is what allows you to truly live. And in that space, you create the best possible conditions for mutual respect to grow. If they come back, it's not because you manipulated them into it. It's because they saw your value more clearly once they realized you were strong enough to walk away. If they don't come back, it's because they weren't meant to, and you've protected yourself from years of settling for less than you deserve. Letting go is never easy. It requires you to face the fear of loss, the uncertainty of the future, and the discomfort of being without someone you once cared deeply for. But in that act, you reclaim something far more valuable than the relationship. You reclaim yourself. And when someone sees you doing that, when they see you choose your own peace over holding on to something that's hurting you, they can't help but respect you for it. They may not admit it right away, but they will feel it. And for many, that respect will be the very thing that makes them see you as someone they don't want to lose again. There is a very subtle but powerful difference between wanting someone and needing them. Wanting is a choice. It comes from a place of abundance, from knowing you are already complete on your own and inviting someone into your life because they enhance it. Needing, on the other hand, comes from a place of lack. It says, without you, I'm not enough. Without you, my life loses its meaning. That energy doesn't draw people in. It pushes them away. It feels heavy, suffocating, and desperate. And no matter how much someone might like you, if they feel you are depending on them for your happiness, they will eventually feel the pressure to escape. When you want someone but don't need them, you give them the gift of freedom. You give them space to show up for you because they want to, not because they have to. You remove the unspoken obligation that so often kills attraction. People don't fall in love with obligation. They fall in love with choice. They fall in love when they feel that being with you is a decision they get to make every day, not a responsibility they're burdened with. Neediness isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it hides in small behaviors, constantly checking your phone to see if they've texted, overanalyzing every word they say, changing your plans to accommodate theirs, even when it means sacrificing your own priorities. It's in the subtle ways you abandon yourself to keep them close. You may not think they notice, but people can feel when you've placed them at the center of your universe, and while at first it might feel flattering, over time it becomes draining, because it removes the sense of equality in the relation. Confidence is magnetic, and true confidence comes from knowing you can stand on your own. When you operate from that mindset, you approach the relationship differently. You're not there to be saved, completed, or validated. You're there to share your life, not surrender it. That kind of presence makes you attractive on a deeper level because it tells the other person that you are whole, and you are inviting them to be a part of something complete rather than something broken. The irony is that when you stop needing someone, they often start giving you more of what you wanted in the first place. When you aren't clinging, they feel safe to come closer. When you aren't demanding constant reassurance, they naturally offer it. When you aren't overcompensating to keep them, they step up because they want to match your energy. It's the difference between holding someone with an open hand versus a clenched fist. The open hand says, you're free to be here, and that freedom is what makes them want to step. This doesn't mean you don't care deeply. It means your care is not conditional on their presence. You can love someone fully and still be willing to let them go if the relationship stops being healthy for you. That's real strength. It's easy to stay when you think you can't live without someone. The challenge and the power comes from staying only because you want to, not because you feel you have no other choice. When you don't need someone, you're also less likely to lose yourself in the relationship. You keep your friends, your hobbies, your goals, your identity. You maintain a life outside of them, and that life is what keeps you interesting and alive. People are drawn to partners who have their own world, because it means there's always something new to learn about them. When your entire existence revolves around one person, you take away the mystery, the individuality, and the energy that made them attracted to you in the first place. Another thing to understand is that neediness often stems from fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. When you let those fears run the show, you make decisions that are not aligned with your highest self. You stay silent when you should speak up. You accept less than you deserve. You shrink yourself to avoid rocking the boat. But the very act of doing those things erodes respect and attraction. The person you're with starts to see you as someone who can be molded or controlled, and deep down, people don't truly admire or desire someone they can control. When you come from a place of self-respect, you're not afraid to lose someone, because you know losing them doesn't mean losing yourself. You know that even if they walk away, you still have your identity, your worth, your sense of purpose. That's why people are drawn to those who can stand on their own. They feel the strength in you. They know you're with them because you want to be, and that makes your presence feel more valuable. Relationships thrive when both people choose each other from a place of desire, not dependence. Imagine two people standing side by side, both with strong roots of their own. They're not leaning on each other to stay upright. they're standing tall together, supporting each other without losing their balance. That's the picture of a healthy bond. If one person leans too heavily, the other is forced to hold more weight, and eventually that strain becomes too much. So the work isn't about making someone stay, it's about making yourself so grounded in who you are that whether they stay or go, you remain whole. You cultivate your passions, invest in your own growth, and nurture your own happiness. You fill your life with enough meaning that the relationship becomes an addition to your joy, not the sole source of it. When you show up like that, people can feel the difference. They feel drawn to your independence, to the way you don't demand their constant attention yet still make them feel special when you give yours. They respect your boundaries because they see you respect yourself. They fall for you harder because they know you're not with them out of fear, you're with them out of choice. And choice is the most powerful foundation any relationship can have, because when someone knows they are not your lifeline, they also know that every moment you give them is intentional. You're not there because you have to be, you're there because you truly want to be, and that is what keeps attraction alive. When you step away from someone, you create a space they didn't realize existed. That space is where the comfort they once had begins to dissolve. It's easy for someone to grow accustomed to your constant presence, to the daily check-ins, the shared routines, the way you always seem to be available when they need you. Over time, that familiarity can become invisible to them. They stop noticing the effort you put in, the energy you give, the way you quietly hold things together. But the moment you remove yourself from that cycle, the absence speaks louder than words ever could. Absence has a strange way of sharpening focus. When you're no longer there to answer every message immediately, to fill the silence, to anticipate their needs, they begin to notice the quiet. That quiet becomes uncomfortable because it highlights just how much they relied on your presence, whether they admitted it or not. Humans are wired to notice what's missing more than what's constant. We take the everyday for granted until it's no longer guaranteed. This is why creating space can make someone realize your worth. It's not about punishing them or making them chase you, it's about allowing them the opportunity to feel what life is like without you. And if you've been showing up in ways that added value to their life, they will feel the gap you leave behind. They might not have consciously appreciated those things before, but the absence will force them to. Sometimes the reason people don't value what they have is because it feels infinite. They think they have endless chances to make things right, to give you more, to appreciate you. There's no urgency because they believe you'll always be there. When you step back, that illusion disappears. Suddenly they're faced with the possibility that what they had with you might be lost for good. And that's when the mind starts replaying the memories, the laughter, the comfort, the unique way you made them feel. The key is that this space has to be real, not performative. If you step back while secretly hoping they'll notice and come running back immediately, you're still attached to the outcome. That attachment changes the energy, it becomes a tactic instead of a truth. True space comes from a place of self-respect and genuine detachment. It's not "I'm stepping back so you'll miss me," it's "I'm stepping back because this dynamic isn't healthy for me, and I need to protect my own peace." Ironically, it's when you truly release the expectation of them coming back that the space becomes the most powerful. People can feel when your absence is authentic. They can sense when you're not sitting by the phone, waiting for them to notice you're gone. That authenticity is what often jolts them into seeing you in a new light, because they realize you're not playing games. You've simply chosen yourself. Space also gives you the chance to see things more clearly. When you're too close to a situation, it's easy to overlook the ways it's been hurting you or holding you back. Distance creates perspective. You begin to notice patterns you ignored, compromises that chipped away at your self-worth, and moments when you silenced your needs to keep the peace. This clarity not only strengthens you, but it also changes how you interact with that person. If they do return, you're no longer approaching them from a place of dependency, you're approaching from a place of choice. For the other person, the experience is just as eye-opening. The silence, the gap, the absence, it forces them to sit with themselves. If they truly valued you, they'll start to feel an ache where your presence used to be. They might remember the little things you did, the way you listened without judgment, the encouragement you gave, the laughter you brought into the most ordinary days. Those details stand out more vividly when they're no longer woven into everyday life. And here's where it gets interesting. Not everyone will respond to your absence by coming closer. Some will let the space remain, and that's just as important to notice. Because the way someone reacts to losing access to you tells you everything about how much they truly valued you in the first place. If they can live without you without even trying to reach out, they were never invested in the same way you were. And that's not a loss, it's a gift of clarity. For those who do feel your absence deeply, the space becomes a mirror. It reflects back to them, not just what they've lost, but how they behaved when they had you. It makes them question why they didn't appreciate you more when they had the chance. It can even trigger growth in them, pushing them to step up and meet you on a healthier, more balanced level. The important thing is that the creation of space isn't about manipulation, it's about alignment. It's about giving both people room to see the truth without the noise of constant interaction. In that quiet, feelings become clearer, priorities become sharper, and if the connection was real and meaningful, the absence will not weaken it, it will magnify it. When someone truly cares, the distance you create won't push them away permanently. Instead, it will draw them back with a greater sense of appreciation and urgency. They'll realize that your presence is not something they can simply assume will always be there. They'll want to earn it back, and when they do, they'll hold on to it with a level of care they didn't have before. The absence you create is not an act of cruelty, it's an act of respect. Respect for yourself, for your boundaries, and for the reality that relationships thrive not on constant proximity, but on mutual choice. And the more willing you are to step away when something isn't right, the more others will feel the value of having you close. Letting go only has real power when it comes from a place of truth. You can't pretend to step away while secretly hoping your absence will force someone to run after you. That's not letting go, that's manipulation in disguise. And manipulation is fragile. It cracks the moment your patience runs out, the moment they don't react the way you wanted, the moment you realize you were holding your breath for their return. True letting go is about reaching a point where you're genuinely at peace with the possibility that they might never come back, because you've decided your well-being matters more than clinging to something that isn't right for you. When your decision to step away is authentic, it carries a different kind of energy. You're not making dramatic gestures or trying to provoke a reaction. You're simply choosing to protect your self-respect. This authenticity is what people respond to. It's the difference between an empty threat and a calm, decisive action. When you mean it, they can feel it. They can sense that you're not bluffing, not posturing, not trying to send a coded message. You're living your truth, and that truth says, I will not stay somewhere that diminishes me. The challenge is that genuine letting go requires deep inner work. It means facing the fears that keep you attached, the fear of being alone, the fear of not finding someone else, the fear that letting go means you failed. You have to dismantle those beliefs before you can walk away without looking over your shoulder. And that's not easy. It demands that you rebuild your sense of worth without their presence to validate it. It asks you to believe that your life can be rich, full, and meaningful, even without them in it. When you do that, the act of letting go stops feeling like a punishment or a tactic. It becomes an act of self-care. You're no longer leaving because you want to change them. You're leaving because you want to protect yourself. You're stepping back not to teach them a lesson, but to reclaim your peace. And that difference matters, because people can feel when your actions are for you rather than against them. Ironically, this kind of genuine detachment often has a greater impact than any game you could play. When someone senses that you've truly moved into a place where you can live without them, it forces them to confront the reality of losing you. There's no performance for them to decode, no hidden agenda to guess at, just the undeniable truth that you're willing to walk away. That clarity often hits harder than anything else, because it leaves no room for them to dismiss it as an act, but you can't fake that clarity. If you tell yourself you're letting go just to see what happens, you're still tied to their response. Your emotions will rise and fall with their behavior, and you'll find yourself checking to see if they've noticed, if they're reacting, if they're feeling the loss. That attachment robs you of your power, because it puts them back in control of your emotional state. The whole point of genuine letting go is to take that control back, to no longer depend on their actions to determine your peace of mind. Real detachment also means accepting whatever outcome comes from it. If they don't reach out, if they move on, if they never acknowledge your worth, you don't chase after them or reopen the door just to get some closure. You trust that the space you've created is for your highest good, even if it leads to an end. That trust allows you to move forward without resentment, without bitterness, and without the constant question of what if hanging over you. And here's something most people overlook: when you let go authentically, you grow. You discover parts of yourself that were dormant because you were too focused on holding the relationship together. You find strength you didn't know you had, independence you didn't think you were capable of, and a deeper understanding of what you truly want. You begin to rebuild your life in ways that aren't dependent on anyone else showing up a certain way. For the other person, your genuine letting go can be a turning point. If they truly valued you, it might be the moment they realize they have to change to meet you where you are. If they didn't, it becomes the moment you see the truth clearly, that they were never going to give you what you needed, no matter how tightly you held on. Either way, you win, because you've chosen honesty over illusion. This is why authenticity is so important. When you let go for real, you stop waiting for someone to complete the story for you. You write your own ending, even if it's different from the one you imagined, and that freedom, the freedom to move forward without needing their permission or their return, is where your real power lives. Releasing someone is not about setting up a test for them to pass. It's not about creating a scenario where they have to prove how much they want you by chasing after you. It's about bringing the focus back to yourself, back to the person you were before you tied so much of your identity to whether they stayed or left. The moment you let go for real, you shift from trying to control their actions to taking ownership of your own life. You stop making your peace dependent on their choices and start anchoring it in your own. When you frame letting go as a way to make them come back, you stay trapped in the same cycle of attachment. Your emotions still revolve around what they do next. If they reach out, you feel if they don't, you feel rejected. But when you let go with the intention of returning to yourself, the outcome with them stops holding so much power over you. You're no longer betting your worth on whether they realize what they lost. You're betting on yourself, on your own ability to build a life that feels good with or without them. This shift is profound because it changes the entire energy you bring to your relation. Instead of operating from fear of losing them, fear of being alone, you start operating from trust in yourself to handle whatever happens, trust in the idea that if something or someone is truly meant for you, it won't require you to abandon yourself to keep. That trust allows you to live with more freedom, more authenticity, and more self-respect. Letting go for yourself also opens the door to clarity. When you step away, you can see the relationship for what it really was, not what you wished it could be. You can look at the dynamics without the haze of constant emotional investment. You notice patterns you overlooked, compromises that didn't serve you, and moments where you shrank to fit into their comfort zone. This clarity helps you grow so that if and when you do choose to connect with them again, or with someone new, you bring a stronger, healthier version of yourself to the table. Sometimes in this space of self-return, you'll realize you don't even want what you were fighting so hard to hold on to. The distance allows you to see that the love you were craving from them was really a reflection of the love you weren't giving yourself. And as you start to give that love to yourself through self-care, through meaningful goals, through surrounding yourself with people who value you, you find that your need for their validation fades. Ironically, this is often the point where they start to notice you differently. But by then you're no longer attached to the idea of them coming back. If they do, it's because they're ready to meet you where you are, not because you've been waiting in the same place for them to catch up. And if they don't, it doesn't break you, because you've already found something more important. You've found yourself again. The goal was never to use letting go as bait. The goal was to free yourself from the kind of attachment that made you forget who you were without them. When you achieve that, you don't just get over someone, you step into a version of yourself that's stronger, clearer, and more in control of your own happiness. And from that place, you no longer chase love, you attract it. In the end, the real power in relationships doesn't come from holding tighter, convincing harder, or proving your worth to someone else. It comes from knowing your value before they ever decide whether to stay or go. Wanting someone but not needing them, being willing to create space, letting go with authenticity, and focusing on your own self-return, are not tactics to manipulate feelings. They are foundations for self-respect. When you can walk away from what doesn't honor you, you not only command respect from others, you protect your peace and keep your life aligned with what truly serves you. And whether they come back or not, you've already won, because you've chosen yourself first.